After last week's episode talking about video games that got turned into movies, James, myself, and our friend Mike sat down and watched Tomb Raider.
We are running out of time. And if we fail, we must wait another 5,000 years.
Well, I don't know about you, but that's more time than I'm prepared to commit to this enterprise.
Stand by alert.
This is it!
If this podcast doesn't play properly, try blowing on the cartridge. This is the Geek State.
Welcome to the Geek State. This is a special Movie Crash episode, which we will periodically do throughout the summer, as well as our regular programming. If you have a movie that you would like for us to watch and discuss, make sure you head over to Twitter or Facebook or even Instagram and tell us which movie we should watch and discuss. This time we're doing Lara Croft Tomb Raider. Yeah, the first one, not the latest new one. Since last week we talked about video games that got turned into movies, it got us thinking. Let's discuss this one, Lara Croft Tomb Raider. So let's dive into this weird cave with bungee cords and try to figure out what this whole thing's about. We do find Lara Croft, played by Angelina Jolie, and her very exaggerated acting talents. So sit back and enjoy the show. If you haven't already seen the movie, go fire it up, watch it, come back to the show. Even if you haven't seen it, I think you can still enjoy our musings on this film. So let's get this thing started.
We can be partners.
You might try to kill me.
I'm not going to kill you.
I said you'd try.
Joining us on the show, as always, is James. James, you're live, I hope, after having to sit through Tomb Raider.
I did. I bought a lot of stock in boob tape.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very important.
Hopefully they make a sequel, boost my stock up.
Well, they did actually.
Well, they did. But
So here, also on the show with us is Mike. Mike, how are you faring after this film?
It was pretty touch and go there for a while.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to make it.
Yeah, I think this is the podcast about how we cope with our lives after we've watched Tomb Raider. Now, going back, this movie came out in 2001, and I remember I know I saw this movie in the theaters, but watching it again reminded me how bored I must have been when I saw it in the theater the first time, because I don't remember almost any of this movie.
yeah, I remember very little. I remember a couple scenes, and then I also remember the statues coming alive. That's about it, though, for me.
Same here, Mike. Did you see this in the theaters when it came out, or was this your first time in?
No, 2 days ago I watched it, which was the first time, and I honestly don't think I remember any of it. So
to this day.
Yeah. 2 days later, I forgot. Maybe I blocked it out. I don't know.
It's a form of coping. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But for the sake of the podcast, we're going to dig all of those memories out and hash it out here. I do remember though this movie. It was kind of a big deal because, before Tomb Raider, video game movies were, we had the Mario Brothers, and we had 1995's Mortal Kombat, which I think at the time we all seemed to be, and I'm not speaking for you, but I'm in the sense of kind of video game community, geek, comic booky kind of genre films. I think as a whole we kind of felt okay with Mortal Kombat.
I loved it.
Yeah. And probably was the best video game to movie adaptation, to this point. Can anybody, what else am I missing? What other video game, up to
Street Fighter? Street Fighter was out, I think.
Yeah, that was.
I would say Street Fighter was out. Yeah,
that was.
I never saw that. I still haven't seen that.
I don't. You know what? Yeah, I don't think I've seen. I don't think I've seen that whole thing. I've caught it, when it's on TV, flipping through, and I'm like, I don't want to watch this. I feel like Street Fighter came after Mortal Kombat, though. For whatever.
Probably.
For whatever reason.
I'm not sure, but it was definitely before Tomb Raider.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what's funny? Okay, Tomb Raider came out in 2001, and it sure doesn't feel like a film post Fellowship of the Rings or A New Hope. It doesn't. I mean, not A New Hope. Phantom Menace. Like it feels like a 1997 film.
It feels really bad. Feels really bad. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. Well, I mean, not just because it's bad. I mean, plenty of films, were bad. No, it looks like. Sorry, while I was talking, I was looking at Street Fighter. Street Fighter came out in 1994,
which would be before
1 year.
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, 1 year before Mortal Kombat. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they were in production, roughly at the same time. So I'm sure one didn't benefit from the other. But I mean, Mortal Kombat had, an easier way of adapting to a movie that it's got some cool stuff because you've got all the different like fatalities, and there was more in the cultural mind, like the mind share about Mortal Kombat it was controversial. It was a game that parents were like, you can't play this. You can play Street Fighter though. And I think that creates some of that. But we're actually here to talk about Tomb Raider. Lara Croft Tomb Raider. And so here's a bit of facts behind this film. This is our second. I'm just keeping track. This is our second Paramount film. So I don't know if that's a trend. But it is. It's our second Paramount film. It was directed by Simon West. You know him as the guy that did Con Air and Expendables, and he was also producers on the Resident Evil stuff as well. So there's that. The film came out June 15th, 2001, and this is something I found interesting when I was looking for box office numbers, because going into this, you're like, I remember this movie not being very good. This movie was, I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody who this is their Indiana Jones, or this is their their one. It's not a favorite film. This movie made $131 million domestically. It did even better foreign, which you don't usually see. Like usually there's a big disparity like between the two, like where the USA say it only made like $50 million, and then foreign did crazy big. Almost the same. It did better foreign, $143 million. So, a success. It made its money back. I don't know, chalk that up to good marketing or Angelina Jolie at the time, was, she was
horny teenage boys.
It's why people, it's one of the things that drew people to the Tomb Raider video game, and what made, a lot of, I guess, press about the game was, he's a big busty, Indiana Jones type.
And 36 double D.
Yeah. And they certainly, Angelina, there was a lot of talk. I remember when this movie was being made, that how are they, going to kind of, take care of that. It's not often. You don't see this happening very often, where, and maybe they do it and it doesn't get a lot of press, but where the actress has to wear prosthetic boobs, for a role, just because the comic book. I mean, just because the video game is, that way. Like, it seems like they didn't need to do that.
But they did.
But they
went the extra mile,
And I don't even think it doesn't, it's not even convincing. And, I swear that it's scene to scene, and it's like sometimes they look like one way, and then sometimes they look lopsided, or it's like maybe they're inflatable, or
one of them sprung a leak.
Yeah, like I got that feeling like throughout the movie. I'm like, are they different right now, or is this?
You should have been paying attention to the plot, Chris, and this wouldn't have bothered you.
See, that would have been an easy thing to do. Come on, James. There's not much of a plot. But before we get into the characters and plot points and other stuff, James, why don't you tell us what the heck is this movie even about?
I'll do my best. So this movie, it's essentially about a very rich British girl whose father's passed away. Apparently, she takes a lot of time just spending time in ancient places, trying to uncover artifacts. She's not your Indiana Jones, every man's man person. She's very technical and has all these crazy gadgets at her house and very rich. She's very skilled in hand-to-hand combat, does weapons training, knows every language that was necessary for this film, and does it all in tight outfits. So that's pretty much what the movie's about.
Yeah, nailed it. That's what the movie is about, but it's not what the movie even is. You know, it's we'll get into that. Let's talk a bit about the characters. Of course, in the title role, Lara Croft is played by Angelina Jolie, who makes duck lips the entire movie. We've got
those are just regular Angelina Jolie.
I know.
Lips, though.
She never closes her mouth. Her mouth is never closed. It reminds me of like Kristen Stewart in like any movie she's in. Her mouth is always open. We also Lara Croft is having to her arch nemesis. I guess for this film, it's not even arch nemesis. It's just the guy trying to do stuff that she doesn't want. I guess
the guy trying to do what she does better.
Yeah, but he's a total douche about it. Like, so this is his name is Manfred Powell, which is the most British name ever. It's played by Ian Glenn. I was watching this, and one of the things I was like, he's been in a lot of stuff.
He's that guy from that thing.
He is. Yeah. He is. And I was like, man, no, but there's something, he's in Resident Evil. He's in the new Kick-Ass. But I was like, that's not what I'm recognizing him from. He was
Khaleesi's bodyguard or whatever.
He's Jorah Mormont or whatever. He's just, I was like, God, that makes so much sense. Like now, when you see people like this, he's that guy from that thing. Like you are like, God, thank God for IMDb, because these are the kind of things that you would just stress about. You're like, God, he's from, I recognize him. What movie is he in? This would have been something that would have bothered me, prior to.
I could have told you. I spotted it right away.
I just couldn't place it, because, first of all, he's younger and, in this film, and so not immediately identifiable, to me, I guess, off the bat, but, Mike apparently is quicker.
Mike's just on the ball today, apparently.
I got this.
So in this film, this is like a checklist, if we had one, of like films that every time we pick a film, there are these same kinds of tropes. You got this character named Bryce, who's Lara Croft. I can't say it with saying Lara. Every time it's okay. So Bryce is sort of like the techie. He's Lara Croft's Q. Sort of. Who lives in an Airstream trailer outside of the mansion for no reason except to keep him locked out of the.
And who does almost nothing in the movie.
He really had some inappropriate times with Lara, so he has to stay in the Airstream outside.
Yeah, I think
he tried to cuddle. He got drunk and tried to cuddle in the bed, and it's just been awkward ever since.
What I don't get is he's sleeping when they wake him up or whatever, like to start everything at the beginning of the film. He's in bed and he's got like those little robots and stuff like in bed with him. So
you'll know that they're just hammering home the fact that he's the robot guy.
Yeah, but
he just builds these little robots and has them all over his little trailer.
And he is also played as by that guy who's from that thing.
Right. He is also a character he's in Game of Thrones as well. Noah Taylor plays
Locke.
Yeah, Locke in Game of Thrones. So that got me. I was like, man, who else is in Game of Thrones? But it turned out that those are the only two people. That's probably one of the most interesting things about the film. I was just like, oh, Game of Thrones connection. That's cool. Let's see. Alex West, who is a Tomb Raider as well, who's played by Daniel Craig, a British man who is a American. Who it's the accent. James, I don't know if you or Mike caught. There's some moments in this film where you're like, you're British.
Maybe we do.
Why?
You stole my prayer wheels.
Stole? From you? That's funny. It's not like you ever really own them or anything. Hey, you're the Tomb Raider.
Well, I didn't know he was supposed to be an American until they started trying to hide the accent. Because in the beginning, he kind of it almost seemed like he didn't, or maybe I just didn't hear his voice the way it was supposed to because I saw Daniel Craig and it came out. Yeah.
Right. You know who he is now.
Right. Yeah. At the time, I was surprised too because I was like, really, I didn't remember or whatever. I didn't realize Daniel Craig was even in this film. And I don't know.
Thank God he was in this film, by the way, because that was the only redeeming quality of the whole film.
I couldn't tell if Daniel Craig and Lara Croft were like an old flame or there was some sort of connection between the two that doesn't get.
I also couldn't tell if they were supposed to be like enemies, like she didn't like him, the bad guy from the first Indiana Jones. Like, are they competing archaeologists or tomb raiders that hate each other, or are they like they used to work together and they kind of went their separate ways, but there's still something there? There was no real clear like relationship established.
She calls him a traitor.
Yeah.
And so that hints at least that there was a previous. I just got this feeling throughout the whole movie, like, did I miss something? Like, did I need to rewind? Because I didn't sit in front of the TV and just like zone out into this film, and so there were lots of.
Because that's impossible.
It is so hard. This has been the most difficult watch ever for the show, and. But I got that feeling like over and over again, like, did I miss something? Was there something that was explained or was it just not there? And because there's so many moments in this film that are just pure exposition where they're like, we're going to, but they never actually get around to saying what it is. Why does this big group of people need all of these things, or what does the bad guy intend to do with this stuff? Either tell us or don't tell us anything and let us try to figure it out for ourselves.
Yeah.
So we open this film with it's supposed to set us up almost like Indiana Jones. I get that. It's almost in a way shot like the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark. You've got Lara Croft. She's in this, tomb because she's raiding it. And
because if you didn't read the title of the movie that you went to see, you wouldn't have known that.
Right. And they say the title of this film like 11 times.
Yeah.
In the movie. So we're in this like tomb, and she's like trying to get towards an object. We can't see it really well. It's lit up from above, just like all temples of secret things are. And then a robot comes to attack her, and it's the first time I noticed that her guns don't do anything. That guns in the Tomb Raider universe are completely useless against robots, against people. I think she ends up on top of this robot, like hitting it with the butt of her gun.
Yeah.
When she finally gets to the object, what is it? Oh, it's a memory stick, because Sony is all over the place in this film. With the Ericsson phones and the laptop, and this wasn't real. This was a training room. Attached to her mansion is a tomb replica that she can train in, and all she had to say was stop, and the robot would stop, and it just felt very like X-Men Danger Room,
Not live rounds, Lara. He's in real pain right now. It's a major remodel, This is a disaster.
Was it programmed to stop before it took my head off?
Oh, well, that would be a, no. But you said make it more challenging, so.
Hence the live fire.
Yeah, it was such a bad fake out. Like when the robot showed up, like I wrote down in my notes, like, a temple guarding robot? And I was like, this might be kind of cool and interesting and different, and then it's just like, oh no, it's her computer guy made her this really advanced robot
that he doesn't use later.
Which never comes up again in the movie, which infuriated me.
Well, the ending, there's at the end, it's sort of like, we've got the robot fixed. You want to give it another go?
Yeah, but it should have come into play in the climax of the movie. That's the logical film screenwriting way to do that. Like, you show this thing at the very beginning, and then they have to use it somehow to beat the bad guys, but it never comes into play again.
Well, you couldn't. You were in Russia at the end. That would have been. She could have, I guess, packed him along because that's why. Because why else is Bryce going with Lara Croft on this adventure?
That's a very good question, and I don't know.
Wouldn't that have been cool?
Because he can read a map.
But he sure likes to. He stares into the eclipse. That's a smart thing to do. It would have been that would have been cool. If why Bryce went was because packed into like several suitcases were the parts of the robot that could auto assemble and come together. For a nerdy character like Bryce, they films like this can't get those characters right, just like we saw in The Core with Rat or whatever. Like, being a geeky person myself, I should find a way to identify with.
You should be offended, is what you should
I know,
be.
and that's what you end up. That's what happens. And you should be able to see the movie through their eyes, because you can't. There's not one character in this film that you associate with, or that you identify, or even remotely care about.
Especially for the market that they're trying to put this movie towards, people that play video games is essentially what this movie's for. Mm-hmm. And you made the tech guy the stupidest character on the movie.
Because he's the guy playing.
He should have had the moment of brilliance that saves the day. Like, so that people are like, oh, I could do this. You know?
I'm surprised
I know HTML.
It's coming through the RSS feeds. And it's still that way. Man of Steel has this moment where when Zod's talking through all the computers and somebody's like, it's coming through the RSS feeds. Like, that doesn't mean anything. Like, how is video coming through an RSS feed showing up on your phone automatically? We open with what could have been.
Let's bring everybody back in.
Just bring
everybody
it.
Come on back in.
Rein it in. All right. So
we keep trying to talk about something besides Tomb Raider, which is probably indicative of how good Tomb Raider was.
I don't even think as a 12-year-old, I don't even think as a kid, this would have been something that as a kid you would watch and you'd be kind of, you're done with it, you're over with it, and be like, yeah, it was good, it was fine. It was...
Well, one thing that I was thinking about, and this is a bit of a tangent, I guess, but I remember seeing it in theaters, and you have to think about what video games looked like at the time. And essentially, if you're watching this movie, the special effects in this movie and everything in this movie looked way cooler than video games did at the time. Like, nowadays, video games look better than that. So it's very just uninteresting. It's very boring, and it's like, what is this? But as a kid at that time, I think I was very interested in it, not for the plot, but for the walking statues that had swords that would fight, and then the crazy, robot and things like that. So I think that effect, like, when I first saw it as a kid, like, I really enjoyed it because of that.
Yeah, and I think on a special effects level and stuff, it was cool to see things that you liked coming to the theaters. So, because you're used to seeing Lara Croft very polygon, shaped and, just very like rough, and it's like, oh my God, because Angelina Jolie, as far as like the look and all of that, it was despite acting and stuff, she seemed like at the time perfect choice to play Lara Croft. Like, you look at box art and stuff like that, you're like, yeah, that's Angelina Jolie. Like, she's probably the only person they had in mind to play Lara Croft. So what could have been a great introduction, it could have been a Raiders of the Lost Ark introduction where she's after something and the antagonist comes and snatches it away from her, leading us on a great adventure. We get a fake out scene, and it takes the film, I want to say 30 to 45 minutes to even get to a point to kind of direct us into where this movie's going. What is it? What's the MacGuffin? What's the thing that we have to go after? We're introduced to the bad guys, and Mike. Is this? I feel like nowadays this part, these guys are a little overplayed when it comes to like secret society types.
Yeah, the big villain in the movie is supposed to be the Illuminati, who don't seem particularly threatening at all. They're just like a bunch of old dudes who hang out. and talk, and they talk about how this thing is going to happen, and it only happens once every 5,000 years, and it's only once every 5,000 years, and if they don't do it, then they'll have to wait another 5,000 years. And they say 5,000 years like 14 times.
What is it? What is it that they're even wanting to do? Like what is
no one knows.
What is the thing that if we miss this, why does it matter?
Yeah, they want to control time, but they don't have. There's no like end game. Like if we get this thing, then we can, control the masses, or we can.
Because then they can get that 5,000 years back that they've been wasting this whole time.
Well, yeah, there's no like we can overthrow the government and
there's no threat.
World peace. Or
it's pretty much if there's a room of rich old British people who've been waiting X number of years for something to happen, it's probably the Illuminati.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's not the League of Shadows. It's the Illuminati. At least the thought that came to my mind with there really being no end game. Like maybe they have one. They've got to have one. I mean, there's got to be a reason to use all these resources and stuff to do this. But at least in the core, we knew that if they didn't do their jobs, Earth would stop spinning and everybody would die. Like this didn't have any sort of why does the antagonist need this item?
Well, I think what they did was they just said, okay, we need a secret society, and they probably talked about like the Freemasons and the Skull and Bones and this and that. And they were like, let's use the Illuminati. And as soon as they had settled on the Illuminati, they said, well, the audience will understand that these guys are bad or doing something they shouldn't be doing, and we can move on. Like there's no like I think it was like a shortcut for them,
right? Where
they were just like, okay, now we can move on, and we don't have to worry about giving them motivation because it's it'd be like. Making them, well, these are the, they're Nazis. Like, if you call them Nazis, then they're just bad guys, and we can just move on.
Right.
Because everybody understands that they're bad.
I'm glad you brought up the Nazis, because at least in Raiders of the Lost Ark, as an audience member, you can go in thinking the Ark is it's just a relic. It doesn't have, there's no spiritual real power maybe behind it, it's just a thing, and the Nazis believe that. But see, they're really clear because they believe that whoever carries the Ark with them is going to be invincible in battle. We knew why they wanted the Ark. We knew why they needed it, and and then when it becomes supernatural, I think as an audience you're just like, whoa, like you didn't really believe that something like that would happen because everything leading up to it was very real world stuff, and we'll talk more about Indiana Jones and the connections a little later. James, so we get to a point where we have this item, we have this clock. And Lara Croft has it in her possession, and of course the bad guys need it. So instead of guarding this clock and really putting it, in safekeeping, maybe like in a safe, we get to witness probably the most trailered scene in the whole film. All the trailers and commercials, we saw this scene. What's Laura up to at her house?
She's doing some Circus du Soleil aerial acrobats in her pajamas.
Right.
Silk. She has very, very fine taste in pajamas, by the way. Those did look very comfortable. And they were perfectly fit in all the right places for her to be dropping and raising and dropping to where nothing flew up too high, just enough.
Right.
And then a giant group of armed soldiers just break in, just through the roof and through the doors and through the floor. I'm pretty sure somebody came through the floor, and then Lara Croft didn't use her gun or used her guns, but just to scare them and to make them uncomfortable so that she could run around the whole wall and then punch them in the face.
One thing, anytime she's about to do something like where the action starts, it's like cue propeller head or like the techno music that comes on, and that made me immediately feel like I was watching The Matrix or something from like 1997. It was almost like, okay, we know that this isn't great, so techno music will make everything feel more high energy. Also, if you have a mansion, this is going out to everybody listening that has mansions, giant mansions with skylights. If you plan,
okay, Chris, I'm listening.
You're listening. Good, James. Grab your yellow notepad and get your butler to write this down. Put bars or something. It feels like anytime you want to gain access to a big house, whether it be the X-Men's mansion or anything else, you just got to come through the skylights. If you're going to also have something that is very important, like something that could control time, you don't leave it sitting on a desk in your workshop.
What?
Yeah. You really should.
I have to rearrange all my things.
Yeah, it's going to take a whole afternoon to do this, but put it in safe. Keep it away. I mean, at least, take some word from Gandalf, keep it secret, keep it safe, put it away. But it's just sitting there. And there are some security measures in place. When the glass broke, the workshops, walls went down and stuff, but it felt like the rest of the house wasn't as well guarded. James, were these soldiers, and I'm asking you as an expert on military training for some reason, were these soldiers also the same people that were trained, like that the stormtroopers were trained by? Because you're in a situation with Lara Croft in the center of a room, and you're surrounding her.
Heyo.
But nobody can hit her. There's like 1,000 ways Lara Croft should have died.
Well, there was one major way, which was gunfire, and there was a lot of that going on. I don't know. I think the goggles that they were wearing might have been quite foggy. I'm not sure. Or they might have been distracted by the Lara Croft. You never know.
Oh my God, is she on a bungee jump? What is she?
Jeez,
oh my God,
this is magical.
Oh, that shirt's gonna come up just enough. Nope, it's not. Nope.
Yeah, that's what they were doing. They didn't want to kill her because they were waiting for it.
Nope.
They were waiting for that boob tape to fail.
So now this is like halfway through the film that now finally the MacGuffin, the item that we're seeking, at least part of it gets taken away, and now she has to go and go on this little journey here. Before all that happens, the house is a wreck and UPS shows up. And James, is it okay? I didn't know if I left my door open at my house that UPS could just walk in.
No, and it's. I mean, I don't want to be stereotypical here, but the UPS driver was of African American descent, and every one of my friends, one of my black friends, if they walked up to a house, saw a bunch of dead people and glass shattered everywhere, would not walk in. They would not.
And he doesn't take out.
They would drop the package and run. I would too.
He didn't even waste any time getting into the house. I don't even think the car had made like a complete stop, and you see him rounding the corner.
He just stepped over the bodies and was like, "What's going on in here, guys?"
Yeah, and Lara Croft, being someone with enormous wealth, she has her butler and her tech guy cleaning up the mess. Like, we're like the groundskeepers or the other people that run.
Or Serve Pro, isn't that? Don't they do that? Aren't they in that kind of business?
Yeah, you just have to make a phone call, and they'll take care of it. And I guess was she like directing their house cleaning from the staircase?
Right. You'd think that someone of that magnitude would have like a wolf from Pulp Fiction, right?
Someone's got to come up and clean up the mess. Before this UPS driver comes, he's got a letter from her father, and she gets all emotional, and it begins the time-honored tradition of reading aloud the things that you get, or at least having somebody else voice over, the letter
as you read.
Right. So she gets put on a quest, and her dad from beyond tells her that there are these first of all, it's 5,000 years ago. Where is this story written, and who are these people? We get treated to like this little visual effect thing where we see this weird temple, and they have this item that was made from the melted metal from a meteorite that hit the earth the same time that the
from Mordor.
Yeah, it was essentially. I felt like it was cast from there were 7 rings for the dwarf lords and all this kind of. It felt very much like that scene from Lord of the Rings at the beginning when Galadriel is explaining via voiceover the rings and all that. So there are these two. There's this triangle, and it's been split into 2. And Laura's instructions are basically get them and destroy them. because nobody should possess the power to do the stuff with the time. Okay, got it. Here we go. We've got a clear thing that Laura has to do. Let's go do it. She's followed all the clues, and so has Manfred. What's his name? Manfred Powell. And they're in Cambodia. And this was shot in Cambodia, which I was surprised to see that as well. That wasn't just some like cheesy backlot type of thing. Where they've got lots of servants, local workers like trying to pull down this statue, and while they're doing that, of course, Manfred is that rich guy that has all the money, and he's sitting over in his chair, not doing anything. And this is where I felt like we'd met Daniel Craig earlier, right? We saw him back earlier, and he's all kind of like, we gotta hurry, and he's like pulling on the rope with the guys. Why didn't they just blow it up? Like, they blew up everything else, to get into this thing. Why do they have to pull down the statue? That I didn't. I just not that I was surprised that I was confused by a plot element, but
they wanted to pull it out as to not affect anything that was behind. You see, I guess
I'll buy that. I'll take.
Why am I defending this movie? No, there's no reason that they should have ever wasted that much time.
They've set the precedent that this movie's all about explosions and just. Well, that would be cool. Let's have this happen. So this is a scene that you mentioned earlier, James, about like you got they're in there and the antagonists are doing that thing that they always do where they've got their expert, that's Alex West, Daniel Craig's character. He's their Tomb Raider, and he's, here it is. We just got to put our little clock key thing at this moment. And of course, Laura's smarter, and so she's like, no, look. And this felt like the video game. This felt like one of those a level from a game where you have to like wander around a temple, and like there was a part in I guess it's Uncharted where there's that room with all of the like statue pieces, and you have to stand in the right spot to light up the mural on the wall and stuff. This felt like that scene because she goes up to the top level and there's like a spinning thing and it lines up just perfectly, and she's like, aha, I got to put it here. And so she helps them out. She releases this
for some reason.
Yeah. Well, and because she's trying to get this. She's trying to get this. This is at this point of the film. I'm like, okay, we know what she has to do. She has to destroy these pieces. There's two pieces of that triangle that without both pieces, the thing doesn't work.
Then don't you just have to destroy one?
Yes, that is precisely. I don't know why the movie just doesn't end right there. She has possession of this. She fights the stupid monkey statues, and there's a multi-armed one that uses a bunch of stuff that I felt like they were just like, the filmmakers in the story meeting were just like, what would be cool? Those statues over there, they should come to life and they should fight Lara Croft. For no reason. Like there's no explanation that this temple, is it spiritual? Is it, what's this, the worst CGI goo that comes out, of that, and why does that bring, we're not even going to discuss that. But, we're treated to an effect sequence where she still has the piece. It's not like the piece got stolen from her and then she had a battle and she's on a chase to prevent them from getting the second one. That would have been what should have happened. But she maintains possession of one half of this triangle, and she does not try to destroy it.
Well, and the whole thing is, it's once every 5,000 years at this exact precise moment when all the planets aligned. So if you have one of the pieces, just go away somewhere and wait like 2 days until this whole process ends, and then the piece is useless. The Illuminati won't get what they want. So.
Right.
No, they'll wait another 5,000 years. That Illuminati,
they don't go anywhere.
Time is not an issue.
That's right. I would have liked if Laura had a reason to keep it. If it was something like she was struggling with this thought of, if I could get both pieces, I could somehow use them to bring my, to change the course of time and to bring my father back from the dead.
Yeah, which they sort of hint at, but they never really give her, she never talks to her computer guy or her butler and is like, I know I shouldn't be doing this, but if I do, I can maybe get my dad back. Like she does. There's not like one of those scenes where her motivation is clearly laid out.
Yeah, and I mean, eventually she does get to see her dad using this thing, but that could have easily been remedied with like one hit of LSD. And she could have accomplished the same goal.
Yeah, she could have got knocked out by the big spinning sun thing, and she could have had this dream, and or was it, or whatnot. There wasn't enough. She visits the guy's grave a lot of times. There's a lot of time spent looking at pictures and reminiscing. It would have been an easy way of one 1 to 2 minute scene with her holding a picture and talking to herself, and then she gets overheard by the butler, and the butler's like, "You'll do what you need to do," or something like that. Yeah. And you're like, okay, now I know why she's not destroying it, because the whole time I'm just like, why don't you just blow it up? The movie's done. We're over with. But so we have to go find the second piece, because they split these pieces up over, 2 different places in the world.
Yeah. Can we call it the Biforce? I like the name Biforce.
I like it. Well done.
Yeah. So they have to go get the second piece of the Biforce so they can take control of time or something. So they go, for some reason, they go to Russia, which I guess is where that mysterious kingdom was 5,000 years ago.
I don't know if that's what they were hinting at. I think I think they split up. We never get to go to that place.
Yeah.
They took the pieces and took them to opposite ends of the earth.
Okay.
And we went to Siberia, which was in fact actually Iceland.
Yeah, because there's no one in that area of Russia now, so something tells me there wasn't anyone there 5,000 years ago.
Right.
Right, but okay, I thought they said they were going to the crater though, and there was all that talk about like the wherever this thing was the dead zone, where it would cell phones and GPS and stuff wouldn't work in this certain place where this thing was.
However, when they're in the, we see evidence of the dead zone, and she mentions it and says it's the dead zone, and Bryce's computer stops working, but of course the cars and stuff still work fine. They get about the dead zone that. I don't know why that even was important, because when she's in the whole area, she grabs that guy's laser pointer.
Yeah,
and uses that, and
I mean, it has the dead zone has no doesn't affect the plot at all. It's not like, if we had a satellite phone, we could do da 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 da.
But we can't. We could call in somebody. We could have remotely activated the robot.
Yeah, but it has no bearing on the movie at all. Doesn't. It's just a weird. They just mention it 2 or 3 times.
Right. So we're in this big open space, and there's a spinning globe thing that is, I guess, to represent what is happening in the universe. And somehow Laura gets teleported into the sun, and then she's teleported out of it with the other piece. And then we get the greatest little.
I love how we just glossed over that. She gets teleported in and teleported out.
At this
point,
that's
what the movie did though. Nothing happens when she goes inside unless I was just not paying attention. But she just disappears. Everybody's like, Daniel Craig's like, Laura, where'd she go? And then she just comes back and she's like, I got this thing now.
And that's when we get the great Illuminati speech. We get this guy, and he's like, and now the Illuminati will fulfill their destiny of whatever we're meaning to do.
We will now unite these 2 parts, the past and the present. At last, we of the Illuminati will control time and fulfill the sacred promise to our ancestors. Soon, the entire world.
Enough of this twaddle.
The only time in this movie that I kind of giggled was when Powell shoots the guy, and is sort of like, enough of that. This is BS. I'm not with the Illuminati, I guess, or something.
Yeah, and that's the thing that kind of confused me throughout. Is was he just hired to track down this thing, or was he actually the young upstart Illuminati guy?
Does it matter? Does it?
No, but it just that was in the back of my head. What is this guy's job?
Who is he?
And again, it's what's his motivation? Does he want to steal it for himself?
He's supposed to protect Calixi. or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
And then
That's why he needs to go back in time because he failed.
anytime you have two pieces of a puzzle, it's very important to slowly put them together.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't like CGI lightning or something like like I can't get it together, and then he puts it together and nothing works. Does nothing.
Nobody in this movie could get it together.
Very true, very true. So we have this whole thing, and he's like, I'm going to test a theory, and I was like, oh, because Lara Croft was kind of holding out on him, kind of knew the secret, and so I thought this was clever. That I see what's going to happen. They're going to put Laura's friend or whatever Daniel Craig was to her into mortal danger, so she has to activate the device to save his life, which ends up she does.
It would have been funny if she had just because the guy throws his knife. They showed earlier in the movie he could throw his knife really well.
Anybody can throw knives well.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Everybody in this movie.
If he'd thrown the knife at Daniel Craig and he died, and then she was just like, well, I didn't like that guy that much anyway. She just kind of shrugs he's a traitor. Who cares?
Meh.
So
yeah, exactly.
He's Daniel Craig. How could you look in those baby blues and not get a little bit of a... I'm just saying. Why did I have to get quiet?
I thought we thought it would be
the
awkward.
Worst friends ever.
So there's a whole sequence of events that doesn't make any sense. She activates the thing, time slows down, except for the big spinning thing in the background. That moves at its regular pace for some reason. She grabs the knife. Time is reversed, and she's already talked to her dad about something, and it doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't matter. The knife, it's like frozen in time. It's heading towards Daniel Craig. She grabs the knife, not by the handle, which would have made sense. She grabs it by the blade.
The slow-mo moving knife, and she's like, blade.
I could have grabbed it anywhere, and I could still let go if I wanted to.
Or just pushed it, or just... Well, you didn't have to grab it.
I almost thought, because it was heading in Daniel Craig's direction, she flips it around. Wouldn't the knife have just continued on its path and hit Daniel Craig just with, the butt of the blade?
That's ridiculous.
How did she reverse the trajectory of the knife just by simply pointing it in the different direction? That
I didn't really think about that.
And let's not dwell too much on this. That we clearly know a knife to the chest equals falling into the water. However, a knife to the chest of the other guy doesn't. It was like a video game character that just took like a potion, or he got stabbed and was like, I'm good now. Let's fight, Lara Croft. He gets. It's not like he's wounded and he's fighting at 60%. He's back up at full force.
Well, and all of his mercenary guys ran away.
Right.
All the guys with guns, except that the bad guy and her had guns, which they opted not to use for some reason. But all the dudes with the machine guns and stuff, they're all just let's get out of here, and they just run away, and you never see them again.
Run away.
They're just gone.
It's like they had this discussion, when they said no guns, it was almost like, what, these are pointless. They don't work.
We're actually really bad with these. So let's not even try.
Let's try something else. So there's a fight, and of course, just like all tombs, this is another trope, another thing. If you're in an ancient tomb place and you've unlocked the secret once, it has to self-destruct.
Yeah,
it has to. It has to. All the pieces have to start falling. You have to run away. There's they could have had that big sun, fall and then roll, and it would have been like Indiana Jones. I'm surprised they didn't do something like that. That there wasn't a more overt homage to Indiana Jones in the film. But then in my notes I wrote snow dogs because she rounds a corner and it's like, oh, these dogs are still here, but man, the sled's broken. No big deal. I'll just go through this tomb. And she's having a blast.
I did like when she found the snow dogs. She goes, "Aha!" like that, because that's what she would. That's what she would do when she found an item in the game. And I was just like, "Come on, man, come on."
She's having all this bad stuff has just happened, and she looks like she is having the time of her life.
She's like, "Well, this day just turned around."
She's snowboarding just on her regular boots with these dogs dragging her through a tunnel as the temple caves in on itself for no apparent reason,
and everybody's just outside the temple, just hanging out when she leaves.
Well, and then when she gets out of the temple, like it doesn't even show her get out of the temple, right? Like she's just like sliding along, and then it cuts to her like back at her house, right?
I think no. I think
am I remembering that wrong?
I think you are just a little bit, but
okay.
There's nothing substantial happens at that point.
She doesn't have a conversation with her computer friend and like, you know, oh, I saw my dad and
no,
you know, at least I saw him one more time or there's nothing like that. Like it's just like, okay, she's back at her house now and I guess she's back. She goes to her dad's little tomb grave thing or whatever.
And
that
she's dressed up.
She's
dressed up like she's going to go on a date or something.
Yeah,
and that doesn't happen. And apparently it's odd to see her in a dress because her butler and stuff are just like, what?
Well, and there was the part earlier in the movie where he was trying to get her to dress up for some reason, to be more ladylike.
That's right.
And so at the end of the movie, she puts on these fancy clothes, and then they stick the robot on her again. So that's going to ruin that dress.
And then quick action pose, freeze frame, the end.
Yeah. Ugh. Thank goodness.
Then me going, yes.
I wrote this thing about the freeze frame at the end. It was almost like the people making the film were like, crap, we don't have an ending. Shoot. Let's just have her freeze and then we'll just say it's over, right? Okay, we're done? All right, good, we're done. It's like SNL skits sometimes. They just kind of don't have endings. They just sort of fade.
Yeah, they just peter out.
They fade out, you know, just go to credits.
It's like a rock song from like 1976.
Yeah.
Just keep playing. We'll just slowly
just do that same riff over and over and over again. Eventually we'll just turn it down.
So Mike, let's talk about, you know, if you were to making a movie based on a video game that's inspired by other movies. Does that sound like a good idea now? Like,
no, and that's like that's the tricky thing with like a lot of like they've been talking for years about doing like a Halo movie, and you know I've heard talks of like, oh, if they made a Halo movie, it would basically be the first Halo game,
right?
And I'm like, my thought is always like, why? Like I've played that game, like I've seen that quote unquote movie, you know, 25 times as I've played Halo. So like with this movie, there's a lot of just like, you know, oh, we have to get our stupid dialogue exposition out of the way. Now let's do a video game scene, like, you know,
puzzles
or like fighting the robot in the beginning kind of feels like
a boss battle.
Oh, this is our exciting, you know, opening boss battle, and then like the Snow Dog scene felt a lot like a video game to me, where it's like, you know, oh, we have a timer and we have to escape this temple, and you know, if you pick the wrong direction, you'll like fall off a cliff or something, or
if that level was a PS3 like launch game, you would have had to like tilt your 6-axis remote, you know, control like lean it left, lean it right, lean it left, lean it right. You know, avoid
also a Waka Flocka song. Sorry.
I feel like now there are talks about a reboot based off of the, you know, more recent incarnation of Tomb Raider, and there's, you know, again, there's also been the talks of like an Uncharted game.
Movie,
right, because there are 3 Uncharted.
Yeah, Mark Wahlberg at one point had signed on to play as him.
Yeah. So I mean, I can see Uncharted. When watching this movie, I was like, man, all my excitement for an Uncharted game, this movie kind of makes me not as excited because how wrong it could go. You
right.
know,
I mean, the Uncharted is basically like a 21st century Indiana Jones. Is kind of the feel I always got.
Mm-hmm. And you're right. Tomb Raider is more of a mix between James Bond and Indiana Jones with a girl. Like
there's ghosts sometimes, which I don't think we mentioned. Mm-mm. There's a ghost girl that follows her around, and like this movie was just like a hodgepodge of just like
mess
stuff. Like let's put stuff in it, and
it's stuff and things.
Yeah, and I think that like it just feels like a lot of times like you're kind of screwed either way with a video game movie, where it's like, you know, we can either make it a lot like the game and no one will like it, or we can make it nothing like the game and everyone will hate it because it's not like the game.
Like Final Fantasy? Like
like
Spirits Within?
Hey, I like that movie though. Come on now.
I mean, it's not based on any of the stuff. Like it's all, you know.
But it's not a Final Fantasy thing. It's its own.
Right.
It just has the Final Fantasy name on it, I guess.
Right. Does any of y'all have a besides Mortal Kombat, because we all seem to agree on that one? Has there been a video game movie that you're like, you know what, they did pretty good? That's not too bad.
Mine would be Doom. I watched the movie Doom, and I thought it was really good with The Rock.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was really good. I thought it was a good video game movie. Let me retract my statement. But I thought it entertained me.
Mike, what about you? Any video game movie?
I don't know. I haven't seen any of Uwe Boll's work, but I've heard that's all pretty stellar.
I've heard those are
yeah, but no, I don't know, like, I keep thinking of, like, the Mario Brothers movie. I liked it when I was a kid. I haven't seen it in forever. I don't know if I'd like it. Okay. There's probably one that I'm not thinking of that's like very like vaguely adapted. Like you wouldn't even necessarily know that it's the same thing. Like I feel like there's like on the tip of my tongue there's some movie that I've seen that's like kind of a video game movie but not really. I don't know. I think it's just hard to do. Like. Because they're just such different mediums.
You're never going to please everybody who's going to see the movie.
Well, and you said, like, something's good as a video game movie. Like, I feel like up to a certain point, we had that problem with, like, superhero movies where it was like, that Batman movie was pretty good for a superhero movie.
All right, so here's a list of some movies that were inspired by video games. Starting in 1993, we had Super Mario Brothers. We decided we did not like that one. There was Street Fighter in 1994, Mortal Kombat 1995, followed up by Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Did anybody see Wing Commander? I remember that one was horrible.
God, no, I didn't see that.
The next movie that came out after Wing Commander, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, followed by Final Fantasy Spirits Within. Now, I liked the first Resident Evil. I feel like that was a pretty good...
that is a good one.
Anything with Mia Jovovich is...
Silent Hill as well.
Yep.
Silent Hill was a good movie.
Silent Hill's pretty good. That would probably actually be the top of my list. That's not a terrible movie.
What about Max Payne? I didn't see Max Payne. That's got Marky Mark, right?
I heard it wasn't very good.
Okay.
I didn't see it.
The game is way, way, way better.
Well, the movie that's going to make us all think that you can make a movie based on a video game is going to be the Angry Birds movie. That one, it's going to be great. And of course, they're working on some other stuff where there's always been talks about the Assassin's Creed, maybe a Mass Effect.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed. They supposedly got Michael Fassbender or whatever his name is.
Yeah,
supposed to be the main.
And the Need for Speed. They're making it's got Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad's in that. So it's not impossible. I would say the one movie that I would really like to see turn into one game turn into a movie is gonna be Uncharted. Every time I'm playing the game, I'm just like, this is so cool. Like it's so.
It basically is. It is a movie already,
right?
Yeah.
It's such a natural. As long as you let like those guys like Naughty Dog like. Do the story, like let them do what they do for the games, and then turn it over to the filmmakers to do it, or have them shoot it in 3D. Like do all the cut scenes. Not all polished, but do all the storyboarding and do all that pre-production work. Turn it over to a capable filmmaker, and then we'll get a good video game adaptation. So I think nowadays video games are more like movies than they were back in. The late 90s, that there weren't long cutscenes, there weren't these cinematic experiences that you were interacting in. And I think nowadays it's probably easier for them to do this. Let's talk about some things maybe that you didn't know, some trivia perhaps. So if you didn't know, Lara Croft's father is played by Angelina Jolie's real-life father, actor Jon Voight. Wow.
Thank God.
That is some inspired casting.
Kind of a bad fake British accent.
Yes. Why I get that Lara Croft is British, but why did Alex need to be American? Like, wouldn't it have made sense, like, if she... I know we're back... Sorry, this is...
Yeah.
But there was no reason to make Daniel Craig an American.
Yeah,
it could have been like Laura and Alex West were like old school friends and had all these adventures, and that's why they're both British. But yeah, so it didn't have to be Jon Voight. It could have been anybody.
I was really surprised that Jon Voight would take such a small role after the success of Anaconda. I thought I thought that was pretty much he made his money, you know?
It's probably a favor, dude.
Because I'm sure he got at least 1 point off of Anaconda, so, you know, each one, you know.
Yeah. Another little tidbit of trivia is that apparently Demi Moore, however you want to pronounce it, was considered to be Lara Croft originally.
And then she took one look at the script and said, no.
I'm going to do striptease too.
Yeah. And I guess this would be around the time she became famous again, or started to become famous again, and but I don't know. I don't think her being in the movie would have made any kind of difference.
And we've hit on this one previously, but Laura actually never wounds or kills anyone with a gun the entire movie. She shoots a lot. I wish we could get a count on bullets that she shoots without getting a single hit. But yeah, she's not very good with that their gun.
Yeah, apparently also the movie was shot at Pinewood Studios in England, which is where better movies are made.
Yes.
Most notably the James Bond films, where, you know, I'm glad that Daniel Craig eventually got to make a good movie.
Maybe he never left. Maybe.
Oh, you think he just hanging out there?
He was like, eventually they'll give me the role.
He was so embarrassed by Tomb Raider, he just hid. And then when they were like getting ready for a tomb, like, hey, there's this guy back here.
Yeah, he's been hanging out for 7
Wasn't that guy from Layer Cake? He'd be great.
Yeah.
Let's give him the job. Come on, guys. And Star Wars reference, Pinewood is where they're shooting the new Episode 7. So
okay,
yeah.
Is Daniel Craig in that too?
No, I don't think so. I hope not.
I wish he was.
Forget him. I don't like him.
I like Daniel Craig a lot.
Okay, hold on. I like him.
You are a crazy person.
I like him as James Bond. I think he's fine, but he's not I don't want him in my Star Wars.
What about Layer Cake? He was great.
Layer Cake's awesome too. No, can I just say that, like,
no.
And obviously this is... Oh.
I'm just kidding.
Obviously this is, like, in retrospect, but I was really, like, frustrated that Daniel Craig was in this whole movie and he never, like, punched anybody or did anything awesome at all.
No, he doesn't. Nothing.
Like, and that distracted me because I was like, oh, you have... You know, it wasn't James Bond yet. It was still Pierce Brosnan, but, like... You have the guy who eventually became James Bond, and he didn't do any awesome James Bond stuff. He was just a really bad archaeologist / Tomb Raider, whatever you want to call him. Like, such a waste of talent.
I think he was in there just to balance out the Angelina Jolie. You know,
yeah.
Like, okay, we get a shot of Angelina Jolie in the shower. We got to show a dude, so we're not objectifying women. And so here's Daniel Craig, and you know, we get the whole housekeeper. You know,
I forgot about the 2 really pointless shower scenes.
So in every episode of Movie Crash, we like to find a unique way of giving it a rating, because you can't rate these movies on a star level, because that indicates that films are good. So in our own way, we're going to give these films our ratings, and they don't really matter, but here he goes. I feel like the movie was maybe rushed, and they had to get a video game movie out, and they just didn't care. It didn't matter that the name of the movie was enough, that it had Angelina Jolie and her big boobs. So I'm going to give it 12 fake boobs. 12 of them, because it's 12
out of how many?
Whoa!
Yeah, my podcasting station.
Are you being attacked by a robot?
I just got attacked. Everything on the top shelf of my podcasting station just fell down. That was awesome.
Yeah,
continue. Continue. We were about what you were saying about 12 boobs.
Yes. I'm giving it 12 boobs out of 100. There are
okay.
12 fake inflatable boobs out of 100.
That's not.
Now, is that 12 sets of boobs out of 100 or
no,
12 just individual?
12 individual prosthetic boobs out of 100.
It'd be cooler if it was 12 pairs.
I don't even know where this podcast is going.
I don't know either. We never know. This is an adventure.
Alrighty, I'll go ahead and go next. I'm going to go ahead and give this movie, I'm going to give it a rating of 2 functional hair braids out of 5.
I'm surprised it wasn't prehensile. Like, that at some point in the movie, it didn't, like, reach out and grab, like, a pole to help her, like, swing around something.
Probably should have.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Mike? What do you give this?
For my little rating bit, I'm going to do Biforces, and I'm going to do 0 Biforces. This movie is so boring. I don't want to say this, but at least the core was kind of interesting. Like, it was moderately engaging. This
Yeah.
movie has nothing that makes, like, there's nothing with this movie where I feel like, don't watch it, unless it's on TV or like blah blah. Or if you want to make fun, like, there's nothing in this movie that needs.
You're just like, don't watch it.
Yeah, just pretend that it doesn't exist.
And just watch The Cradle of Life, right? Watch the sequel.
Yeah, go watch the sequel. But that might be kind of good. I don't know.
I'm hoping that if they made a sequel, they're like, okay, guys, we screwed up the first time. We got to fix it.
I know for a fact she punches a shark in the face. So
No,
Okay,
I kind of
that-
want to
fix
for
this
a
game.
fact.
I kind of want to watch it now. Oh, never mind. So our next film is up to you. Make sure you go to Twitter, go to the Geek State Pod or Facebook.com/The Geek State and recommend what movie you'd like for us to watch and discuss. We're going to be bringing you Movie Crash episodes this summer to fill in some of the gaps when we're going to take a little bit of summer vacation throughout the month of June and July. But we will still have regular The Geek State episodes with all the news and stuff going on in the world of geek, as you would expect. But we're going to sprinkle in some fun Movie Crash episodes as well. So make sure you head over to our social media channels and let us know what movie you'd like for us to do, and we'll take a look, and we'll probably end up watching them and talking about them here on the show. So thank you guys so much for listening. Stay excellent to each other, and we'll see you next time.
And the fate of mankind
Eternal hell revives!
will rest in the hands of one.
Don't start.
Now that I have to put my whole desk back together, I don't know what the hell happened. Literally everything on the top shelf just fell at one time. I think my house might have a poltergeist going on.
Maybe it's the Illuminati coming after you.
I told you I don't know who they are. Stop.
They've been waiting 5,000 years to knock your desk over.